Hey everybody. I figured I'd share the old HDFK. I know it's out of production now, so it's not like you can find one if you really want it, other than on the secondary market. And if you try to find one there, you're probably going to pay a pretty penny for it. But this was the knife that got me into Carothers knives, and I tell you, I'm very happy I picked one up, and that I went down that rabbit hole because I now have 4 Carothers knives, and I couldn't be more happy with the fixed blades that they make. This one has a pretty unique profile that I love, and at the time I had been collecting Bussy and using Bussy fixed blades and all the steels they make, and I liked them. I didn't think they were perfect, I didn't think they were awesome, and the grinds weren't always exact, but I thought they were really good knives, just a little expensive for what they were, especially considering they came with a coated blade because they didn't take extra time on the machining unless you wanted to pay quite a bit more. Well, the Carothers came with a nice stone wash, showing off their machine work, and were less money than most of the Bussies I was buying. But this one, I always wanted a Team Gemini, and this was kind of like a cooler Team Gemini without the nub on the back. So I thought, I like that one. If I can get one day, I will. I forgot about it, and then I saw one come up for sale on the forum, and I'm like, oh, that knife. And I grabbed it for a really good deal. I love the fuller in it. The fuller actually changes depth as you go. It gets quite a bit shallower here, and it's not because the blade thins. It's how they made it and designed it, keeping the weight right on the knife. And it's very deep here and then comes back up. I don't know how they cut that with the ball mill or whatever it is, but they do a fantastic job. There's no chatter in there, and it gets the same stone wash that the rest of the blade gets. So I thought that was really nice. I'm not much of a choil fan on a knife because when my thumb's here, I like the blade to be under my thumb. So I still have a useful bit there, a good 1/2 inch under the thumb that I could put pressure on without torquing my wrist trying to cut with a knife out here. I like the Bussies are because the handle ends and then a huge choil and then the blade starts up here. I didn't care for the majority of them for that. And the more I looked at this, the more I like it. And they also don't over logo them. This is for Lorian Arnold. It's a collaboration. He did a lot of the design with Nathan on this one. I'm not sure if he did the whole thing or what, but I know he was greatly involved in the handles, and I'm not sure about the blade, but man, I tell you, that guy knocked it out of the park. You get your Carothers logo. Again, not some huge billboard down the blade, and you get the steel. This one's in 3V, and the triangle denotes his Delta heat treat, where he brings us to a much better steel that is much more stainless and tougher than a standard 3V with a regular heat treat. It's not an insanely thick knife, but it's fat, but perfect. And I wouldn't want a thicker knife to carry around or to use, but I wouldn't want this one any thinner. He has an S grind to this, in a way, it feels like. You have a very high grind, which makes it a little thinner down here to make it a better cutter for as big a knife as it is. And you can feel it hollow, and then it comes back a little bit and gives the edge a little more thickness, or at least behind the edge, to give it strength without the edge being fat. So it still cuts very, very well for how big it is, but is strong enough to, the guy chops grade 8 bolts with these knives with almost no or little damage, and the knife is still quite serviceable and usable. I also like that he doesn't get carried away with the thumb ramps. It's very subtle, just adds a little bit of traction. These provide just a little without being too much grabbing your flesh, or if you were to use a knife for a long time, it would not create a hot spot on your hand. I love that on most of the knives, he has this little scallop here. And, for a lot of the work, I find I'm in like a pinch grip here, and I'm just doing little work with the big knife. And that makes it great, and it balances there. So the pinch grip makes it very usable. He also kind of 3D contours the handles. And, it almost feels like a fawn's foot on an axe handle. It's not coming out of your hand. It grabs perfectly. The meat of the palm fills in that swell. And then the swell on the knife fills in the gap in your palm. And if you're holding this knife like this, it becomes part of your hand. It's hard to beat. And that's without being all the way up into the choil or falling off the blade. And like I said, I'm not a monster, but I wear an extra large glove, and there's more than enough knife here for me without being too big for other people. The fit and finish between the tang and the scales on all 4 of my knives through multiple handles on 2 of those knives has been perfect. This is an OD green micarta. I'm not sure if it shows over black liners, which might show here, but it's kind of hard to catch in the light. There, I got it a little bit. And my medium chopper matches it, so I have a kind of a match set of these two. There's a hidden lanyard pin here, so it doesn't take away from the knife's aesthetics or the grip or the usefulness or make a hot spot anywhere, but you can still slide a lanyard in there if you want. And I have abused this thing. I have smashed everything I could smash with this knife, making fires and screwing around doing chores in the yard. And the only thing that ever caused any issue, which you might be able to see right there above my fingernail, is smashing into cement a couple times. I put the tiniest divot in this knife, but it'll sharpen out if I ever decide to sharpen it. You can see I just ran the stone on the edge to take the burr off it, but that's about it. And that was smashing into stamped concrete a couple of times after I slipped through a log. The knives are exceptionally tough. I mean, I don't think there's anything you could do with this knife that you would do to break it that wouldn't also break a pry bar. So I guess that says a lot with it still being able to hold an edge and not being exceptionally heavy to where you could carry the thing around out in the woods if you so chose. I know this one is kind of unobtainium unless you really want to spend a lot of money on the secondary market, but I tell you, I just wanted to show the thing to you for we'll say a look at what Carothers can do. And besides this one, I think the Shiv and the K18 sword are like the 3 masterpieces people really just know them for. And as I keep releasing more, of course, that list will only grow, because although the knives are somewhat expensive, they're definitely more towards custom than they are production, and they're higher than mid-level or mid-tech. The guy puts a lot of work and a lot of thought into these, and they're not just production knives. They're more than mid-tech knives, but they're not customs. And if you compare them to their same quality rivalry, you're not spending any more money, but you're definitely getting more knife. Everybody, thanks for watching.